everybody here tonight. But first, Carl, did you find that statement that we were talking about? You want to go ahead and read that real quick?
Oz Paranormal Investigation Group is dedicated to the objective, respectful, and ethical investigation of unexplained phenomena. Our goal is to provide support to individuals experiencing paranormal events, to document and analyze such occurrences using sound methods, and to educate the public about our findings. We operate with integrity, open-mindedness, and a commitment to the truth, wherever it leads.
I think that sounds perfect. What do you guys think?
Sounds great. We've said it better ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought. You're hired, Carl. So I just like to ask everybody, how do you feel about, you're doing paranormal investigations, but there's something else too. There's a cryptid sighting, there's a UFO sighting, there's a portal, something like that going on. Have you run into cases like that? And do you think it is important to know about these other things? So, I'll just, whoever wants to go, take it away.
I'll take it over here. I did Mount Shasta, and Mount Shasta is known for everything. You got Bigfoot, you even have Bat Squatch back in 2009. You had the last of the Lemurians that supposedly live underneath the mountain. You have UFOs going in and out of the mountain. So you got UFOs, you got cryptids, and you got ghosts. You got all kinds of ghosts because they had massacres out there. So yeah, I believe that, well, myself, I'm a 14 investigator. That means I investigate all things paranormal. And I do believe that it all connects.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Michelle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I am lucky enough to know some of you, and so when I do run into something like that, I actually have where I can reach out and say, who would you recommend? How can we put this, person together with this family? So, but you think about it, there's a lot of them out there that doesn't. And so to be able to kind of put all of it together and have some knowledge of all of it, to at least know we can guide them in the right direction, I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any comments on that?
I think, Margie, you need to bring up North Farm.
Bring up,
North Farm.
North Farm?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, yeah, that's a case where this lady had multiple UFO sighting and photographic evidence on the security cameras of UFOs in her yard. Balls of light, a 50-foot tall monster, an 8-foot tall Bigfoot, you name it, what's going on there. And it's probably still going on there, but we can't investigate anymore because it has now changed hands. He's no longer there. But Carl, being an ex-sheriff, knows everybody, and he contacted the local law enforcement, and sure enough, they were very well aware of that particular location, which is in the middle of nowhere, north of Kansas City, some distance. And yeah, there are just places like that, including the main thing about this is that she got a picture of a portal opening that looked like a tornado. It was transparent, it was kind of a reddish color, it's just swirling and swirling and swirling, and right across the street from her location on another person's property. So yeah, that's one call.
If you had a checklist, there was fairies, orbs, ghosts, Bigfoot, Mothman, UFOs, the portal. The only thing that was missing from the bingo card was cattle mutilation. And the next day after we quit investigating, the neighbor brought in a truckload of cattle. So I kept waiting for that phone call.
So we're still waiting, but yeah. All right. So moving forward, what other courses do you think are important other subject matter that we can throw into this mix that investigators want to hear about. And also, we want to hear from the public on this too. You can, get your 3-month membership, send in your ideas. We want to hear them. You can send them in by email, and I will be dropping this information up here in just a minute. But the website is ozinstitute.org, and that's got everything on it that you want to know. And yeah, we want to hear your ideas too. But are there any others from this group tonight? Anything we're missing?
Well, like with my team, I have people who are specialists in certain things. We had a person who was forensic photography. And so anytime I got any kind of weird pictures, instead of me spending hours looking at it and trying to figure it out, I would just hand it over to her. And she would actually dissect it. And then she'd write this long email explaining what that photograph was. If it was fake, if it was something by accident, or if it was real.
That's an excellent point, and Carl and I know the man for the job. Larry. We'll be giving Larry a call to join us. I know he will. All right.
Something that sets ghost hunters apart from investigators, to me, is the scientific method, and we need to get away from, the word pseudoscience as it pertains to paranormal investigation, and we need to make it a science, right? Because we can apply science and the structure of science and the scientific method to what we do every day, right? When we're in the field, so to speak. So I think a course just about like this, employing the scientific method into a ghost investigation would be a great foundational piece.
How about a bachelor's degree in paranormal science?
Would be great.
There we go.
That would be a lofty goal, but I
Well,
think we could create it.
Like
I
people,
would have done that over engineering school.
like people who watch Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, and then people who watch Ghost Adventures. Well, if you look at Reddit, Ghost Adventures is a joke. It's a joke, and Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, I mean, they're using science, real science, to try to figure things out. That's the direction that we need to go, towards science.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Absolutely. Dan, Terry, what do you think?
Years ago, and it's a little different, but I got called in to assist on a investigation because the team that was doing it had another one that popped up the same night. So they asked me to help these guys out, which I did. They told me what was going on about the murder that occurred there and how it happened. We made contact with that spirit. And the more I talked about what happened, the madder it got. And there was a curtain of darkness came down between us and the next room. We could hear things being thrown, and then it shot through out the door. When I went and did my own research, I found out I was completely misled. And I was upsetting him because it wasn't nothing like what really happened when he was murdered. The history is so important, and to get Violent in there and others to show how to research this. I had to go find newspapers, and then they were in German, so I had to get them translated. But that's the way to start. You got to have the right story, or it's just going to make things worse.
Derek?
I mean, to Dan's point, there are so many times where we will see a well-known location, and you know the story about it. Everybody knows the story about it. But the locations that have hit us closer, have meant more to us, are the lesser-known locations. Those where residences are contacting us and saying, what's going on here? Or, having some of these just not necessarily investigated, but these places that have stories about them, that all they are myths and legends, and nothing's been documented. And without any of this documentation, proper ways of documenting it, scientifically even, step by step, uh, everything, it can just be a ghost story, right? There's nothing more to it. So I think a way on adding to that research and scientific level, proper foundations of documenting things, which is really a big part, Margie, of us getting with UNX magazine to document our findings and everything. And people talk para-unity all the time, right? So much so that it becomes a joke. Because it's not real. It needs to be, it should be, but it's not. Everyone's out for themselves. Take what we do and build off of it. The next team in, build off of it. And we do the same thing. We reach out to groups who have been into locations before. Tell us about what you have experienced. So just bringing all of these things together, kind of start to bottom. How do you research? How do you prep? How do you communicate? Putting these things in order, and doing it respectfully, doing it properly, and repeatedly. I think some kind of methodology needs to be created for this.
You know, comparing to the UFO side, there's websites you go to make your report. I wonder
That's right.
if at some point we would have the capability to have a website where people can go make the reports, and then it gets sent out to the nearest group. Or
there are a few that I've seen before, but most of the time it's just people telling stories. There's no actual foundation to them. It's just, I heard this about this place. I think it's a great idea, creating some kind of live map where you can kind of put a pin on it. So wherever you are in the country, the world even, you know of these locations. You know the real history about it. You know how the paranormal ties into that history. And you know, even a contact person, if you wanted to go and talk to somebody there or investigate for yourself, putting together a library, Carl, I think that would be a phenomenal idea.
Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't have duplication, or you could do your research if you get the same report.
That's a great idea. I think this could quickly become a monster.
It hasn't already.
Yeah, it kind of has. I do want to show everybody our logo for the association. Anyway, that's their working logo. We might come up with something different later. But now there's also the opportunity we mentioned earlier to have individual groups, teams in different cities who are approved by us, and we would refer people to them. But the first official Oz group is in Kansas City, and Carl made this logo for us. We've got 6 or 7 team members right now that we are actually launching tomorrow. We're doing our first meeting tomorrow and introducing everybody to the group. And what we're going to do is hold monthly or bi-monthly meetings, and we're going to tell everybody about our investigations, what we have found, and then also have guest speakers come in by Wi-Fi. So we meet at a restaurant. We meet at Johnny's Tavern, where we've been meeting with MUFON for a long time. And it's kind of the same group of people, but we can't talk about anything other than UFOs with MUFON. So, you know, we've got this whole separate deal here and that covers basically everything. And so we've got that going. I'd just like to go around then and let everybody talk a little bit about some difficult case you worked on that it was really hard to figure out what was going on at that site, where the people were very disturbed by it, and maybe you did or did not come to a resolution at the end of it. So if you can think of a case like that, let's just go around and talk about that. Dan Terry, do you have anything off the top of your head?
Well, I had a hard to pick one, but you know, I do want to say real quick here. I know it's not quite what you're looking for, but I've worked with Michelle, And of course, Margette worked with you. And I got to work with, well, I didn't work with them so much as I was there with Iron City Paranormal at the Blennerhaus a few years ago. And I think I even wrote an article for the magazine about how professional and how outstandingly well this team operated in the Blennerhaus. You've picked some really amazing guys right here. I'm kind of shouldn't even be in with this group. So
Yes, you should.
they're awesome. Carl and Paul, I don't know those guys yet, but everyone else here I've seen, and they are top notch.
We appreciate that, Dan. Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you very much, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
It means a lot.
Yeah, the one I was telling you about would be the one I'd have to bring up, in that I got the wrong information. They called me the day before,
Oh.
filled me in. I go in the next evening. I got the wrong information. The ghost would not talk to us after that again. I mean, the whole night was shot after that, just because I have the wrong information. And I just can't push that, you know, before you start even discussing things with the spirit, other than the basics of, you know, how are you? Is it hot where you're at? The best thing to do is get the information.
All right. Good deal. Derek Smith, what do you think?
So I think one that really sticks out in my mind, and Dan, feel free chime in with this one. It's actually one that's local here to us. It was one of our first residences who reached out, and talking. I mean, before we even got in there, a group, Paranormal Quest actually from West Virginia, they had a woman contact them, and they said, you know, we can't make it up there, we can't really do anything, and we worked with them before, and to your point of, you know, reaching out to others locally, this was a perfect case of that. And so we were actually close by. We went in, we spoke with the woman, we did multiple video calls with her first to make sure that, you know, something is actually going on and you're not just, you know, someone off the loony bus here. No more than any of us are, but we got in there and you could tell that there was something off. And the more we got into it, you know, it took a while, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but it took a lot of time for us to finally get something going there. But once we did, we were able to find out, just walking through her location, that her bedroom was the hot spot of this place. And the reason why is because there was a mirror on every single wall, and she was opening this bedroom up from every side.
With her bed right in the middle. There was
Right.
mirrors
It was
on
the
both
epicenter.
sides, one at the head of the bed, one at the foot of the bed. It was just unnerving to walk into that space, right?
First thing we said is cover those up. You know, that was the first step. And we've been back there how many times? 3 times?
Yeah, so that's what made that case so difficult. Was we had a lot of success very early on teaching her, because it's a lot of, you know, what we had to do was get her to understand, because she herself was psychic or had a mediumship to her or something, right?
Well, something she didn't understand, and she was pulling all of this energy in without knowing it.
Correct, and we were leaving her with tools and equipment, you know, like prayers to say, and, you know, crystals to use for protection and different things that she herself has to maintain. We asked her to maintain that shield because she kept bringing it in. We would leave, and then she would start doubting herself. She would watch, you know, crime shows and things that would pollute her head, and she would just sit in her bedroom all nights of the hours of the night. So she was bringing all of this energy into the home, and she took all of the things that we gave her and told us why it didn't work and stopped using it. Well, then she kept bringing it back in. So after a while, we had to, you know, respectfully tell her, like, if you're not going to follow what we're leaving with you, there's really not much we can do. We can make it okay for a day or two, but if it keeps coming, if you keep welcoming it back in, it's going to keep coming back in. So that one was a difficult one, and we eventually stopped hearing from her. So I don't know if, you know, last we heard everything was going well, but we really don't know where that one's at. And it's just something that stuck with me, you know.
Well, unfortunately, that happens too often, where the person is actually creating the phenomena themselves. Paul, what do you think?
Well, I've had a lot of difficult cases, especially my demonic cases. One case, the person was a hoarder, and the demon was telling him to hoard. And it was a total mess. So mess. I mean, they even took out the toilets out of the bathroom, and they were doing everything they need to do in the garage. That's how disgusting it was. That was one. Another one, I was actually chased out of the house with a woman with a baseball bat. So I've had some strange demonic cases. And that's why my investigators gave me the nickname the Demon Warrior. So that's how I became a warrior. But I want to tell Carl, I used to be in the Army for about 12 years, and I worked with the drug suppression team. I was an undercover MP in Germany. So we always look for statements that were consistent. So when we interview somebody, the interview process is very, very important. And like when I did an investigation, that's the first thing I do. I interviewed the occupant. And sometimes they get messed up because they're telling a lie. Okay, they said, okay, the demon showed up at 3 a.m. Later on, I go back to it, and the demon showed up at 10 p.m. So which one was it? So yeah, the interview process is very, very important. As soon as I see that there's something that's not consistent, I know it's probably made up. So, yeah, I've had some interesting cases, and I could probably talk for 3 days about all the different cases I've had.
Yeah, I bet Michelle can too. What do you say, Michelle?
Well, I don't have a cool nickname yet, so I'm gonna have to work on one. But actually, I get called in a lot from the churches and stuff because I do work with them on demonic possessions and things like that. A little bit around, because of being a physical medium, able to draw things in to see, and they kind of want to know what it is. The hardest thing I think I've ever had to learn is just kind of like what Dan and Derek were saying, knowing when to walk away. Because I think, when we're doing this kind of work, you want to fix everything. And so there was struggles with that for myself. Because when you start working and getting really into these cases, and you're working with the church, and you're working with the bishops and stuff, you feel like you have to have answers. And my toughest case was, and I didn't realize this person ended up having like 5, 6 other people trying to help. As we were trying to help, we end up losing that person. And that was like one of the hardest things I have ever dealt with. It's still kind of a nightmare for me, knowing that no matter what we did, it wasn't going to change the outcome. But how do you deal with that? And that's why, like I said, this is going to be so important, not just with the scientific stuff, but we're dealing on certain levels, and how do we teach a lot of these groups and stuff, just like you guys did, knowing when you cannot help anymore. And to get that phone call from the children of this lovely lady saying that she took her own life because she couldn't fight the demons anymore. Sorry. It's hardcore, and that's why it's so important that we get these messages out, because Paul said it, you get placebo effects on things. But when you start really working and you start bringing stuff like that in, and you don't know and you can't control it, just like the lady with the mirrors, you don't know what's coming in and out. I mean, that is your portal. You have to start really learning, you're not a superhero, and you got to know when to walk away or when to say, hey, I need to bring other people in, because your ego is not going to help these people.
It's really hard to do because you start caring. You start
Oh.
spending time with these people, getting to know them. You
Yep.
spend hours upon hours with them, and it's really hard to do that because you
Yep.
really do care and you really do want to help out.
And it's difficult. And, one thing, you're trying to navigate, and you're trying to make sure they're at peace, not realizing it's, disrupting your own peace. And then now it's become personal, because now it's not even about that person anymore, it's about what you're fighting. And then you're like, trying to go, okay,